Come on in, welcome to my home. Today we are going to do the first part of a many part series about how I designed my home in SketchUp because a lot of people asked about that. So what I thought I would do is I thought I would take you along and show you how I did it. This is a very detailed model, and you don't have to get this detailed. You could just do thick walls and that sort of thing. However, what I wanted in a finished product was a finished product, something that I could show you how all of the pieces and all the pieces of design go together. So I am building this from the ground up. And to do this, you also sort of learn SketchUp. Now I want to take this moment to tell you that I am learning SketchUp as I go along and do this. So my ability to work with SketchUp has vastly improved since I started this. That being said, you have to remember I did start this in AutoCAD using a very old version of it, but I did start it out on a 2D layout. But let's get to the SketchUp version. This is a voiceover of the work that I'd already done, so I'll explain things and hopefully it won't be a horribly long video. Like I said, this is only the first part of a many-part series. It will not be every week, I promise you that, but the other things along with this channel will tell you why some of the things go the way they do and how your house can affect your mood and those sort of things. But let's get to the model right now. Let's get started. The first thing that I do is draw out a box which is 48 feet by 104 feet. Now I am doing this in a speed version so that if you're really wanting to learn how to make a model in SketchUp, there are lots of ways that you can learn this. I'm just going to show you the really quick and way that I did this, simply because this takes a lot of time. And even though this is going to be broken up into a lot of different videos, there is a lot going on here. So what I'm doing right now is I'm measuring out each room so that I know that it has the correct measurements for the size. We are putting in the rooms such as the storage area, the pantry, we're putting in a hallway, closet, and all of these things will make sense, but I'm doing the measurements off of simply the 3 by 5 or 3 inch by it's a 2 by 4. So the 2 by 4 actual size is 3.5 by 2.5 is 1.5 by 3.5 inches. That's the actual size of a 2 by 4. So yeah, I'm using those exact measurements to create my floor plan. And my floor plan does have a mistake in it right now, and that mistake is I'm doing each of the doorway openings. So I just did an opening because I'm creating the walls, that the opening starts at 4 inches from the wall. It shouldn't. It should start at 3.5, so that way when you put in your king stud, but we'll get to all of that stuff first. But the thing which I can tell you is making out this whole entire thing so that way I have the exact measurements for this is one of the first important steps. And I do a two-dimensional layout first, simply because I know that I'm going to pull up my walls up to the 8 feet mark, and I go through there and I make all of the walls that I need to make for this to work. And I found out a couple different things, because you're going to see some changes in this plan, because the original plan had what I'm working on now is a bathroom, and the bathroom door was right there, and that's going to change because once you see things in a 3D space, or once you start modeling things and start moving them around, you begin to realize that, hey, I can put in extra space. I could put in a linen closet in this space. And that's what's so cool about being able to do something in a 3D space, or being able to look at it in a way where you can pull up the walls, put the walls down, make changes really easily, is the fact that you can then really see these things and make these changes. I'm making sure that I put in all of my door openings and erase the lines where the door openings would be, so that way when I pull up the wall, it will be one solid piece. It will make sense then. And I can make all sorts of changes with this. And I know that for some of you, this is probably inducing sort of some feeling of dizziness, but we're doing this so fast because this took hours. There are hours and hours of footage of me going through this, so if you think this just took a little bit of time, it didn't. It's hours and hours worth of time to make the model work the way that I want it to. And part of that is I'm going to be doing the 2x4 studs, we'll be doing the sheathing, we'll be doing drywall, so that what you see is the actual thing of what the house would be like if it were built. The one thing that I can say that they tell you when you are working on SketchUp is to make sure that you erase your guidelines. I have made that mistake where I thought my guidelines were erased and they weren't, and then I pull out something or draw something to a certain point and it's not to that point. And that can be frustrating. That can be very frustrating. But the other thing to remember is I am learning SketchUp as I go through this, so there are some things where I didn't even know that I could do before, that learning it and showing you what my process of this has been a lot of fun, because I've learned things like the fact that I can then, if I take away the outside line, since all SketchUp is, it's connecting boxes. So if you take away the outside line, it will change everything. You'll see it. I'll mention it when we come up to it. So I'm putting in all the places that I know that there are going to be openings, like doors and windows and those sort of things, so that they're already built in. And the cool part about this is you can fool around with this and make your openings exactly where you want them by just measuring out and putting them where things are supposed to be. We've got an opening for a closet, then an opening for just an open bookcase area, then 2 more closets, because I do believe you cannot have enough closet space. I can space out my doors so that my door openings are exact and wonderful. And then I go and save it, and make sure that you are saving as you go along. Now this is going to be a lot of fun. This is originally going to be the large sliding glass door that is in there, but I changed that. I changed it to 2 just regular glass doors that will open to the outside into a patio, simply because I knew that I'm going to want some sort of heat source. So I thought, what better way than to put in a wood stove? I know a lot of you said to put in a fireplace, but I'm not a fireplace kind of person, so I thought that a wood stove would be a lot better. And I am going through and making sure that everything is connected. We are making sure that we have the space for the drywall. We're making sure that when I pull up everything, that all of these lines will come up the way that I'm expecting them to. And the one thing that I did remember is the fact that the doorways stop, the drywall stops before the doorways do. So when you do something like a 1/2 inch offset to put in your drywall, you have to remember to take the drywall out where you don't want it to be. And that's what I'm doing right here. I'm going through and making sure that my openings are the exact place that I want them to be. And so the drywall was just put in doing a 1/2 inch offset, which I thought was the fastest way to do it. And it really was. Before you know anything, I have the whole entire thing done. But this, I think, took about an hour to go through and make sure that everything was offset just perfectly. This is when I decided to make a change, because I realized that that area where I first had a closet by the bathroom would go so much better if it weren't a closet, if it were actually just an area where I could put in cabinets, because then I could put the Roomba or the whatever cleaning device that I will have in that spot. So now we are going through, and we're still going through and taking out all of those extra pieces that I don't need for the openings of the door. And this, like I said, this is going to take tons and tons and tons of time. And that's one of the reasons that these videos are sped up. And because I do believe there's something like 10 hours worth of footage in here. It's sped up to 999%, I do believe. So now I'm going through and I'm doing the offset for the areas that don't connect, because the offset will only happen if it is connected to what you are offsetting. So once you draw in the line, which I thought this was really cool, if you want to know if a line is connected, if it's not connected and does not make a box, it has a darker line, but once it makes a box, it becomes lighter. And I thought that was really neat, and it really does help you try to figure out if something is connected. Now I'm putting in a closet in the office area, I do believe. Yep, closet in the office. And this is so that, actually no, this is a closet in the laundry room. Yeah, laundry room. So this is so I'm going to measure all of these things out so that when I put in cabinets, and this is something to think about when you're designing your own home, when I put in cabinets, I can buy stock cabinets, so I'm not spending a fortune of money to get cabinets that I'm going to have to either have custom made or something like that. No, I can have stock cabinets, and this is where I was trying to figure out, well, why doesn't this work? Well, it's because my line wasn't connected, because I had forgotten to erase one of the lines, which was a guideline. So once I did that, I made sure that all the lines were connected. And so then I put in this is the closet that's in the office, because these are the closets that I will put my camera equipment in. And thinking ahead, that's the big part about this, is you need to think ahead about what stuff you have, what stuff you're going to want to have, so that way you can make space for it, and there's enough space for it. And make sure that your hallways and also your doorways are big enough to very easily get furniture around. Now I'm pulling up my sill plates. My sill plates are going to be 1.5 inches high, because they're a 2x4 laid on its side on top of the concrete plate. So I'm making sure that all of these are the exact right height, and then I'm going back and checking out and making sure that I have openings, because I forgot the opening for the doorway in the closet, going from the bathroom to the closet, so that way everything can be there. And then I measured out to make sure that I would have enough room for toilets and those sort of things. Now I'm going to go start through and start looking at windows. I can put in the spot where I want my windows to be, and I create a thing known as a king plate or a king stud, and this is where I'm getting the exact height of how high is a stud for framing, because even though you're told that 2x4 is 2x4 by 8 feet, it's not. It's 1.5 by 3.5 by 92.625 inches. So that way I have the exact right height that I needed for all of that to be correct. And it took some time to find all of that stuff there. And then once I found it, I could then really design this and really build this for the exact right height that I want it to be. And once I got that, I knew that I could create my studs to the size that I wanted. Now here's the cool thing, is making sure that my studs are 16 inches on center. Once you do one, you can then do the second one, doing the copy and doing the move tool and copying, and then I can go through and do all of them this way. Now, if you've ever built anything, you know that a lot of these things are done in such a way that it's made so that you can then put one wall, and that's what I was doing. I'm putting in the one wall, which is the far wall, in first. And think about how you're going to build your place, because once you start building it, you want to be able to build it the way that a building actually happens. And this was so much fun to be able to design things to put in. I'm putting in window headers, and that if you know anything about construction, it really does help, because then you can really see what your building is going to be like. And putting in these window headers was really cool. Then once I put in the window headers, I realized, hey, I also need the jack stud for the window plate. So that way I put that in there in the exact right height that it needed to be. And because I didn't erase those guidelines, it put me in a weird position. Then I put in my studs that I need to put in. And this is the cool thing about this. I can really show if somebody were to ask me, well, what does this need to look like? I can say, well, it needs to look exactly like this. Now, I'm going to do these in a couple different ways. Right now, I'm making a group to put these in so that way I can put them in all at once. Now, there's a little tiny thing which is in this group that I will find and I will erase eventually. So that way when I copy it, I can make sure that this group is 16 inches on center. And this goes so fast. Once you start doing these things, it moves so quickly that it's wonderful. And if you've ever worked with SketchUp in groups before, one of these things, once you have a component, you can then alter one part of the one component and it will alter all of them. And that became an issue when I noticed that, hey, those are too high. So then I can alter it, and then I make this into a group so that way when I put in the windows, I can put these windows in everywhere and they will just be a component that I can put in and change everything. So now I'm going to go through and do the farthest wall that I had, and the only thing that is in that wall is the doorway. All of this other stuff can be put in, and I'm copying and pasting basically those components once again. Then I realized that, hey, at every place that there is a wall coming in there, I have to make sure that I have the nailing boards so that way they can be put in. Now that will change as time goes on. You will find that building it this way, building a model, I change so many different things because I learn so much from doing this. And each one of those spots where the sill plate meets the other sill plate, and I have to put studs, you want to make sure that you have a way of nailing your studs together. I am not using the solid method of doing this. I am using where they put in an extra stud in between the two studs. Well, you can see this because we'll go through this in great detail after all this is done. So now I'm just putting in the windows in each of the guest bedrooms, and once those windows are in, I can then build everything off of this. This is the west side wall, and so I can do a copy and do the move tool, move it, and then create a copy of it, and then move it over to where I need it to be. Because there are windows that are all the same size. Most of the windows in this are the same size as the living room window. And the reason that I do this is once I buy curtains, those curtains will fit in each of the windows. It's a way of saving money. It's a way of saving a lot of different time, different energies. And when you order these things, you do get discounts when you order things in larger quantities, and that's something to think about. When you design a house or when you think about building stuff, you do get major discounts for ordering large things. That's why my home is 48 feet wide, so that way I would get a discount for ordering roof trusses that are all the same size. I could have put a vaulted ceiling in the living room, dining room, kitchen area, but I decided I would rather have the money saved instead of doing the vaulted ceiling, so that way I can have a better looking house with more amenities for cheaper. Once again, building that header so that way it will go across the window. Now, I can make all sorts of changes to this because, well, that's what it does. You can make all sorts of changes to that. And the angles that you see, make sure that everything lines up perfectly. Now we are working on the doors, I do believe, in the office. Yep, it's the doors in the office. Putting the cripple studs in there over top of those doors and making sure that everything lines up perfectly. And then we are going to do the door in the kitchen, I do believe, because it's one of those doors that just needs it. It will have a header stud, and yeah, you can put those in really quickly, and then once you've made something, you can move it, copy it around, move it, and this is what's so cool about SketchUp, is the fact that you can put all of these things in. I made this header very unique. It's a unique header, so that way I can then put it in different spots, and this one is different from the other headers. So we are now moving over to the wall, and we're almost done. That's the cool part about this. Once you're done, you're done, and it makes life so easy to do it this way. We have the majority of, Alright, we have the majority of the first side, which is the bedroom and the laundry room side, master bedroom, laundry room side, done. That's the majority of it. There are other details that'll be put in, but I don't want these videos to go on for hours and hours and hours, because I have a lot of footage to get through on this, like a lot of footage. So tell me what you think, how I can improve these videos to help you understand this a little bit longer. Let me know what you want to see. I'd like to take this time to thank these wonderful people who are helping me make this whole dream even possible, because my goal is to build this house one day. Actually, not just a 3D model of it, but build the house. This is my dream home. So if you want to help me make that goal come true, you can then support me on Patreon. You could become a channel member, because I really want to take you through the whole process of how I did this, how I built the model, then from building the model to building the house. And we can make this come true. Enough of you help us build this, we can get this going. If you have thoughts, suggestions, or ideas, let me know down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope we get to see you again the next time you stop by.